Basically, the likelihood of the observed winners in a series of, let's say, a past 10,000 races is going to be this product of the winning probabilities assigned to the horse that actually won in each of those particular races. And this results in a very difficult to solve problem. It has to be solved by a very complex iterative method. There's a gentleman actually here in Hong Kong who's pioneered one of the ways to do that, a Professor Guoming Gao at Chinese University. And we've personally have been using his methodology for solving this particular problem in practice. Well, that's, I showed you that to give you really a flavor of what kind of work is going on. I've included this graph just because I'm proud of it. This is the actual record of betting using the aforementioned horse racing system, or a methodology very similar to that. And this is a consecutive series of about 6,000 races, which was about 11 years of Hong Kong racing. And the graph is of a sort of an accumulated net profit that we experienced betting on this particular system. And in fact, to those of you who are mathematicians, which I assume is most everyone, the y-axis on this graph is actually a logarithmic scale, because the actual profit chart from using this system was, very much very, very steep. So to make it fit on a particular page, we had to use a logarithmic graph. So it was, something I'm proud of. Here's a quote from a gentleman who wrote probably one of the best books on the study of mathematics and gambling. And his conclusion was that gamblers can rightfully claim to be the godfathers of probability theory, since they are responsible for provoking the stimulating interplay of gambling and mathematics that provided the impetus to the study of probability. Now, I think that's a true statement, and I think that in the past, certainly it was true in the 1700s or the 1600s when all of this started. These days, it seems that rather than being the inspiration for innovations in mathematics, gamblers these days are more or less the beneficiaries. It's other factors that are driving the development of mathematics now, but keen gamblers are making use of the fruits of mathematics that was oftentimes developed for other areas of endeavor, and applying these same mathematical techniques back to gambling, and oftentimes to great profit. And there's a few references. Thank you.
Great. We will entertain one or two questions. Is there any questions?
Sorry, could you say that again?
To stock markets, for example?
Oh, yeah. The question was, can these strategies be applied to the stock market? Yes, in a matter of fact. I think horse racing is probably the closest analogy, because in the stock market, you're oftentimes, one way of profiting is to be able to predict how a certain company's shares are going to fare, or a particular currency. And oftentimes this involves real-world modeling of the particular underlying instrument. So you would have some model that would predict the future share price based on some past data, in the same way that you would predict a racehorse's performance. So yes, these things can be done, but horse racing is a particularly good field for applying this type of modeling, because the stock market, oftentimes you have unique situations occurring, whereas horse racing is very stable, and you've got the same sort of event occurring thousands of times, which makes it very much amenable to modeling and statistical analysis.
Are the bookies using the same sort of models to set?
Yeah. The question was, are the bookies, that is, are the bookmakers or the people who accept bets on horse racing using the same type of models? And the answer is no, basically. Usually bookmakers or people like this act as kind of intermediaries for taking bets, and they usually act in a responsive manner, whereby they try to set the odds based on how the people are betting, such that they always keep a certain edge or advantage over the, they act as kind of a toll taker, really. They oftentimes try to limit their risk. And specifically in Hong Kong, I think people may be unclear what you mean by bookmakers, because here we don't have bookmakers, that is individuals who accept bets on racing. It's all done at the racetrack. And the racetrack operates on the parimutuel system, where it withdraws a fixed percentage from the betting pools and therefore is taking no risk, basically. So no, but it's the gamblers using the models and not the casinos or the racetracks or the bookmakers.
Hello, I want to ask, in Hong Kong horse racing, Hong Kong horse racing, the odds is a little bit changed before the race, and after you get the probability, however, the odds is changed, then how to get the expectation value and before the race and before the betting, and what is the optimal time to make a bid? Okay,
yes, I understand. That's a very good question, a very astute question, I should say, that calculating the overall expectation for horse racing, once you know the probability of a horse winning, the other thing you have to know is what the payoff is going to be, because it's, the probability of winning times the amount you get if you win, plus the probability of losing times the amount you lose if you lose. That's what adds up to give you the expectation. And if the payoff is unknown, that is, if the payoff, as you suggest, could change at the last minute, that introduces an uncertainty which might mean that your expectation is not what you thought it was. And a positive expectation, if the odds drop at the last minute, becomes a negative expectation. This is a problem. The idea is to try to bet at the very last minute, if possible, so you know the actual payoff odds as closely as possible. And mostly people have to build in a certain cushion on the assumption that the payoff odds can and usually do drop at the last minute on horses that are likely to win. So it's something you just have to deal with, and yes, it does hurt your profits, and the best time to bet always is the very last minute.
Are there any more questions? Okay, thank you very much, Bill. So.